A very warm welcome to all our viewers. Welcome to Sentinel's Newsmakers. Earlier, we always used to say, people used to say that the hospitality sector, the restaurant business, is one sector that will never get hit by recession. This is one particular sector that will never see a downturn. But what has actually happened is before all of us. We all know the kind of distress this particular sector is going through at this point of time. So, what are some of those things, maybe the top 5, top 10 things that every person involved in this particular space, in this particular business, needs to do going forward? What are the things that they must do to beat the downturn and move ahead to bring the sector back on track? And what is the government's role going to be? What are the expectations from the government as far as this particular sector is concerned? To talk about all of these things and the road ahead, I have a very eminent panel with me today. Let me introduce my panelists this afternoon. I have with me Aarhi Bezbaruah. She is the director, Paradise. With me today is Tanai Shirali. He's the hospitality expert. He's the professional there. Larsing Ming Sawyan needs no introduction, a very well-known person name as far as hospitality and the sports space of Northeast is concerned. Another well-known person from the hospitality space in the Northeast is Mr. Ranjeev Baruah. He's also the owner of Hot Hot. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you for having us on board.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, let's start with Aarhi. Aarhi, we all know what the sector is going through. We've seen the kind of distress that the sector has seen. What are your thoughts now? I mean, what do you think is the biggest challenge? Because at the very outset, I would like to say that the focus of today's show would be on looking ahead. What needs to be done next? Because sooner than later, I'm sure the business will open up, restaurants will be asked to open up. Then what? How do you address some of the fear factor that may be there amongst most of the customers at this point of time? And what, according to you, is the biggest challenge going to be? Aarhi first.
Firstly, I would like to say that considering this pandemic, it's been a huge gap between us and the customers in terms of understanding the hygiene and the sanitization. The fear factor, of course, is there, definitely will be there amongst everyone. Ensuring from our end, sanitizing, fumigating at every point, and as with entry of every customer to the exit, sitting on the tables, on all the surfaces, everything being sanitized. These are the precautions we are taking as restaurants. Mm-hmm. But one of the major challenges we are facing, not from now, you have to see in Assam since November, December, due to the CAA, we've been facing a loss of, all our footfalls have been going down since then. And after that, now March, another pandemic which has come across, and due to which another Bihu, which is very famous in April, which, we have, our restaurants are full during Bihu, another loss for us. So definitely footfalls is one of them. And one of the major issues that we are facing right now is the cost of our raw materials, of our goods that we are purchasing. The prices have gone up shot up so high that we are not able to increase our menu rates. We are not able to, of course, with meat and everything we do not have a choice. But at the same time, we have to be sensitive to the customer and the pricing.
Right.
So these are the first few things that come to my mind if I think of.
Right away. Top of your mind, these are some of the things there. Of course, we will elaborate on each of these, how the pricing is going to play out. how the menu that you all will offer, how that the role that is going to play, how critical these things are going to be. Of course, the whole issue about you spoke about the sanitization and hygiene issue, how that's going to, you all will have to handle. What will be the role of the government there as far as the authorities are concerned? I would like to go across to Mr. Larsing May. What are your thoughts? What do you think are going to be the bigger challenges going forward?
Yeah, Oineetom, can you hear me? I was having some problem with the
Okay.
network. Am I audible at the moment?
Yes. Yes, you are. You are.
Yes.
Yes. All right.
Hello.
All right. Let's just get that line fixed there. I hope the net
I
will.
think I'm having some network issue.
Yes.
Can you
Yes.
allow me
So,
some
Mr.
time to
Sawyan,
come back to
yeah,
you?
what you need to do is maybe you can just absolutely, absolutely. Let's go across to Ranjeev. Ranjeev, what are your thoughts? What do you think are top challenges at this point of time, and also going forward? What do you think you will have to do? I'm sure you must have already started thinking on those lines.
Yes, these are unprecedented times. So the thing is, this is not something that anybody was prepared for. But the thing is, I think the biggest challenges for, medium-sized restaurants like ours, which is single outlet business. Uh, See, it's first of all, it's a rental property. So the first challenge is, how do you pay rent when you don't have any revenue? And then
Right.
if the landlord is also dependent on the rent, then it becomes a big challenge. How to deal with that situation. And apart
Hmm.
from that, is main thing is the salaries. So many people are dependent on those salaries. Your employees, and then how do you do that? I mean, as it is, the restaurant business is so dependent on the working capital. It's not a very heavy working capital business, so we're dependent a lot on credit from the suppliers and stuff like that. So even just a month's revenue loss can
Hmm.
wipe out your entire year's profit. So it's these are the biggest challenges as far as businesses like ours is concerned: rent and salaries, which of course then again relates to staff retention. How do you
Right.
retain your staff if you can't pay them salaries? So
Hmm.
those are the biggest challenges I feel.
Right. Tanai, what are your comments? I mean, you've heard both Aarhi as well as Ranjeev. Ranjeev has quite a few significant points there. What do you think?
Um, Oineetom, I would just like to, I think the coronavirus is like everyone on the panel has pointed out are extremely unprecedented times. No one could have ever imagined. I'm from hospitality and I can't imagine myself growing a beard, and not shaving. So these are unprecedented times. But I think, hospitality per se has suffered uh, many setbacks. This is, whether it was September 11th, whether it was, the markets crashing of 2008, whether it was, the 500-meter ruling for alcohol licenses, and now this. So we've had, um, a lot of setbacks, but nothing compares to a coronavirus.
Right.
Because it has, because everyone around the world is pretty much in the same state, or we all are in the same boat. And it's not just hospitality, but hospitality, I think, has always had it, um, always got the raw end of the stick. And I will, give you a brief from what I think is from the government, and not just this particular government, but all successive governments. What they fail to realize, in my opinion, is that there are certain countries which run on tourism. Certain countries say 25% of their GDP comes from tourism, and I'm not talking about Europe. I'm talking. Let's look at a country like Thailand. Why does everyone like to go to Thailand? Besides the
Right.
obvious, they are so customer friendly. They are so tourist friendly because they know that end of the day, these people are what contribute to the economy. Hence, there are so many. levies that are not there. There's so much of concessions. There's so much of encouragement to the government and to by the government to the respective, whether it's a five-star hotel, whether it's the shacks, or whether it's the small outlets in the soils. They want to promote tourism. From our end, no government has ever thought about giving us the rightful dues, considering that we contribute nearly 5% of the GDP in terms of the taxes we pay, direct, indirect, in terms of the employment we create, in terms of the supply chain that we are part of. So the biggest one of the biggest precursors to this was the fact that we pay GST, but we don't get input tax on that. And that for any
Yes.
business, anyone who's running a business, small or big, that those
Yes.
concessions that you got from the input tax for what actually, you know, were the difference between a positive and a negative, EBITDA, or for that matter, even a profit and loss. And in spite of, so many, restaurant associations pitching up saying that, the reason we are asking you to do this is because it actually has merit. It's not an ad hoc thing. This is what will either save a business and drown a business. Now, coming back to Corona,
Yeah.
this has, we saw it how it spread in China and then it went to Italy, and I think the government did, the best that they could in terms of, just considering the scale of India. And when I say scale, I'm talking. I see. I mean, I'm part of a company which handles operations across the country, pan India. So certain countries, certain cities have had it worse off. Certain cities have it better because they could control it in time. One of the cities was Guwahati, which I think did a great job, but then they opened up, they relaxed, and then they relapsed. Similarly, it's happening with Bangalore. So coming back to the cost, I think there are certain fixed costs in a business which are going to be there irrespective. Most governments across the world have come forward and given concessions. Our government has also done that, but they have really not done anything for hospitality per se.
Right.
There have, and it's not just with the GST, but it's with so many other things. Now every rental agreement has something known as a force majeure, and currently we are in talks with landlords across the country to renegotiate, because there's nothing to hide here. If I don't have any money in the bank, I can't
Right.
pay you. And it's not just the landlord; it's the similar thing with vendors, with employees. So there has to be a little give and take, and uh, you know, I think
Okay.
this pandemic is just a wake up call for us.
Yeah. All right. Tanay, I'll come back to you on what do you think the government needs to do at this point of time?
So
Should there be tax breaks and all of these other things? Mr. Sawyan, what are your thoughts? How is the entire situation there in Shillong, in Meghalaya, and also you have businesses here in Guwahati as well. What are your thoughts at this point of time, and what are your plans going forward?
Yes, I think the first 2 months was really a wait and watch to understand what this whole pandemic would be. And initially, initially, both Shillong and Guwahati, the numbers have been stable. But unfortunately, Guwahati last couple of weeks, things have spiked up. And
Yes.
similarly, we see the same trend in Shillong in the last week or so. There's been an upward surge all of a sudden. Uh, you know, it's a very difficult time for the entire economic spectrum really. But
Right.
yes, I think the hospitality and the F&B sector is, I think, worse hit in that sense, because we're the first to be hit and perhaps going to be the last to really recover once things come back to normal. So it's very, very difficult to say. But I think at this point of time, we all need to really, figure out a kind of a medium-term, long-term plan to kind of weather this storm. Now, the
Yes.
question is whether this storm is going to last another 3 months, 6 months, or 9. God forbid,
Right.
I hope it will not go beyond that. And
Right.
really to try and maintain, keep ourselves afloat. Having said
Yes.
that, it's difficult because we all have, fixed costs. We have manpower costs. We have so many other overheads that we need to cater to. But as Tane has said, this is a time for give and take. I think it's a time for survival, really, survival of businesses and survival of human beings. For us to just think of this time as a period just to survive, not to think beyond that, really. So in that regard, we just need to think of how to kind of work out mechanism to ensure that there's food on the table for everybody, and somehow the other, weather this really trying and difficult
Yeah.
period.
Right. Aarhi, what do you think? Whatever the government has done so far, they've, of course, as far as the hotels are concerned, some of those hotels have been converted into either quarantine centers or COVID care centers and all of those stuff. But as far as the restaurants are concerned, uh, I don't think the government has really done anything there. So, what do you think? What could be the way out? What could be the way forward?
Uh, I think fixed costs are something that we have, that per se would be our licenses that we give.
Right.
And also, the rentals are, of course, there. There's no, that is a very give and take again with the rentals. But electricity is something
Yes.
that we can get, the government can help us with. The fixed
Right.
charges that the electricity board charges, maybe they could compensate, or maybe they could, excuse us for that.
Yes.
Also, what are the others? Tax exemption, I think, for local food. So local
Right.
cuisine, they should really exempt the tax factor,
Yes. Yes.
because we are promoting
Right.
our local cuisine.
Right. Right.
They should consider these things. Also,
Yes.
I think they should again, same what Tanay said, restoring the input tax
As far as GST
credit
is
for
concerned.
GST,
Yes.
for
Yes.
GST,
Yes.
which
Yes.
is not done for our sector at all, the F&B sector.
All right.
That is
Arhi, I'll
important.
come. Right. Arhi, I'll come back to you. Would like to hear from you how you people, during those few days when restaurants were allowed to operate, how Paradise was doing things. Would like to hear in greater detail about all of those
I would
things, the
also like
measures.
to add one
Yes.
point as to,
Yes.
in terms of employees that we have, this is the
Yeah.
right time where ESIC and PF, all the deposited, the uncashed deposits,
Right.
needs to be taken out. The government needs to use this
Allow them to.
deposit
Yes.
and
Yes.
pay salaries.
All right. Okay. Yes. I'm going to come back to you, Aarhi. Tanay, what do you think about the points, about the ethnic cuisine part? Government looking at some kind of a tax concession there. And the other point, which has been raised by Ranjeev as well, there about about your employees there, retaining your staff, their salaries, and of course the fixed costs that all of you guys have. So how do you address each of these things?
I think ethnic cuisine. So I'm in Bombay and most metro cities, and I will only speak for Bombay currently. There has been an upswing in terms of ethnic cuisine. When I mean ethnic, I mean you know while you still have your Thai, your Oriental, your
Yeah.
Japanese, but it's ethnic cuisines that have come to the fore. Be it Mangalorean, be it Gujarati, be it
Yes.
Kathiawadi, because there's also this entire concept of home chefs coming up, and these home chefs are not professionally trained chefs, but they've been born, brought up in the kitchen. These are recipes that have been passed down from generations. So yes, I think definitely the government should encourage ethnic cuisine, and there should be some amount of concessions on this, because now with the entire drum roll about what's happening at our borders, and that entire the entire Atmanirbhar that the prime minister
Yes.
is. I think it's a good,
Vocal
it's a
for
start.
local. Yeah.
Work for local. It's a start where you have to start somewhere. It may not pick up immediately, but there's always a point where you start off from, and then you
Right.
can always improvise, modify, etc., etc. That's my take on this. And
Yes.
regards the government, I think there's a lot that can be done, um, and I think it just comes down to the intent of realizing how important a contributor hospitality is, and seriously, you know declubbing it. We have a tourism ministry, and
Right.
I think you need someone who are hospitality specialists who understand the business. Because at the end of the day, I mean, every industry, you have a minister. It's a business, right? It's a business. You nurture the business. You help it out, because it brings in certain amount of revenue, etc., for the government, whichever way, whether it's
Yes.
direct taxes or indirect taxes. I think they need to relook at hospitality as a serious revenue generator, not just now, but for the next 5 years. And this includes a gamut of things. Um,
Right.
with regards to the employees, I think the government has already allowed withdrawing of the PF. I think the ESIC is where there is a huge corpus that is locked in. And I would like to believe that there's no better time people can uh, people need the money. People need money to
Right.
sustain, and this is about ethics. It's about humanity, and the government is doing their best through their schemes, but a little more is always helpful. A little
Right.
more goes a long way in what I
Right.
feel.
Right. Ranjeev, you had flagged certain very important points as far as the sector is concerned. So, have you also thought about some of the solutions for this particular thing? I have been harping on the government factor quite a bit. I feel that the government really can do a lot here, and like you all have mentioned, the input credit tax there as far as GST is concerned. I don't know why they have not thought about it for so long, because as far as I remember, when the whole GST thing happened, there were many other sectors which had really lobbied and pressurized the finance ministry to, look at this input credit tax and really help the sector, because GST was really very disruptive at that point of time. But I hope in the coming days, your sector, the groups there, the associations there will really have interactions with the finance ministry and bring up this particular issue, and along with all the other pain points that you people have. But Ranjit, have you thought of any solutions going forward, and how once operations begin, how is hotpot going to look like? What are the things that your customers can expect?
Well, going forward, of course, apart from the assistance that we expect from government,
Yeah.
which is goes without saying. I mean, is the biggest hit industry probably in this pandemic. So that already being said, from our own perspective, from our own efforts, I guess we'll have to look at a different model from now on, because, like everybody is saying, dining is going to be not going to be the biggest revenue earner for this industry in the near future, at least. So obviously, we'll have to focus more while we focus on hygiene and safety, but also we'll have to start focusing on takeaways and home deliveries. That model more, so that
Yeah.
that is going to be eating out in the future. I can see right now. So those are the two things. I mean, while focusing on social distancing and hygiene and safety,
Yes.
and of course in the kitchen, then also maybe try and attract diners by giving offers and things like that.
Yeah.
But obviously, the focus will be on home deliveries and takeaways in the future.
Okay. Okay. Mr. Sawyan, what you think the home delivery segment is going to be very significant this time round, going to play a big role there? And also, what about the pricing and the menu? Would we see a lot of, health food on the menu, or dishes done in a certain way, so that what's going to be your mantra to get the customers back?
No, yes, I think one thing for sure is that perhaps home deliveries and takeaways are going to, are going to be the real way forward, really, in the immediate future, because
Yes.
people are going to be a little bit more reluctant to dine out.
Right.
Obviously, with maintaining social distancing and so on and so forth, and at the same time, people want to eat. Want to eat out
Yes.
different food. So therefore, to bridge this gap between a requirement to eat different food and eat things which you don't normally cook at home.
Right.
I think that would be bridged by home deliveries. So home deliveries, I think, is going to be the mantra going forward,
Yeah.
and this is an area which I think all restaurants and the F&B sector has to look at. I think for us also in the last 1 month, that's what has kept us really going.
Right.
Both in Shillong and Guwahati, the moment restaurants were allowed to operate, we
Yes.
started the takeaways and the home deliveries, and we
Yeah.
saw a good traction really develop. And in fact,
Right.
things were going very well even in Guwahati. Till
Hmm.
unfortunately, the numbers started spiking, and interestingly enough, the largest sales that we actually had was on the last day of the or before lockdown. So I think a lot of people wanted to go out and pick up
Yes.
food and and get them home delivered. So yes,
Right.
once we get back to a gradual easing down of the lockdown, I think home deliveries is definitely something that is the way forward.
Yes.
I hope that there'll be larger aggregators to cater to the n number of restaurants
That's
that
right.
that would like to get into this domain.
Yes.
And also, I hope that generally people continue to patronize the different restaurants in our respective towns and cities, because
Hmm.
at the end of the day, restaurants are very much part of the larger fabric of a city and part of the character of a city. So yeah,
Right.
if it's part of that whole concept of supporting things local, then yes, I think we should all at every point in time look at ordering from some local eateries wherever we are. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So, if I'll just come back to you, I would like to hear from you about, your restaurants. What, when customers walk in, what are the new things that they can expect this time round? And also another thing about this entire, food safety and hygiene. How much are our authorities really equipped to monitor to ensure that all the safety standards are maintained? And also, of course, I'm not referring to people like you who are already aware of the safety standards. You already are not the not the smaller players, but we have a lot of smaller restaurants, smaller players in this particular space who might not be really aware of the safety standards to be followed. They might not be doing what is necessary, because at this particular point, food safety and hygiene is going to really play a much, much bigger role than ever before. So I would really like to prick your thoughts on this particular thing. That what do you think the authorities need to do? Are they really equipped? And what about the uh, players present in this particular space? What they need to do going forward? But before that, I would like to come to Aarhi and hear from her about what has the whole thing been like in Paradise, the experience that they have been giving to their customers and are planning to do in the coming days.
Um, Currently, what we were when we started off after
Yes.
post the lockdown, we had started off with a few immunity boosters for the people, so that they can come in, and also sanitization, of course, for every customer, every client, everyone who is coming in.
Right.
That is there definitely.
Yeah.
But yes, we've been one of our costs that have increased is of disposables. We've
Right.
increased our disposables. We are not using any cutlery for our hygiene. We're using everything that is disposable, including the plates, including everything. Everything is disposable. It goes to the bin and that is thrown away. Nothing,
Right.
so that it's safe for our employees as well, for
Yes.
the consumers, as well as for the customers who are coming in to eat and dine in
Yes.
with us. So that is
Yes.
an additional cost. And after every day end, we are fumigating our restaurants. The restaurant is fumigated. So these are
Yeah.
costs that have come up, which were not there earlier. So these are
Right.
additional costs that have been taken now, that we
Yeah.
have to bear. Moreover, self service is something which we have started. We've started with self service because we cannot be going to customers and serving them. So that is somewhere we were facing a little bit of a glitch, because for the last 36 years, we've been functioning or operating in a certain way. So the customers who are coming in, they're like, oh, they're a little surprised as to this is like a service, self-service. Do we really have to
Yeah.
do this?
Right.
But yes, they also do understand it's because for the best and
Yes.
to keep the distance.
Yeah. To keep everyone
So
safe and healthy.
to keep everyone safe and
So,
healthy.
right. Yes. Ranjeev, what kind of changes is your menu going to have in the coming days? And also, what kind of an experience as far as hot pot is concerned?
Sorry, Anita, was that to me?
Yes, that's for you. That's for you. I wanted to know about, a couple of
Hello,
things.
there.
How can you hear me?
Was that question to me?
Yes, Ranjit. The question is to you about what kind of changes will awaits the customer of hot pot as far as the menu is concerned.
Yes, it's broken.
Ranjit, if you can hear me.
The thing is, as far as concerned, we're going to be focusing more on. Can you hear me?
It's your line is
Can you hear
really
me,
bad.
Anita?
Okay, let's come back to you. Maybe you need to log
Can you hear me?
out and log in again to fix it. Till then, the same question to you,
Can you
Mr.
hear me?
Sawyan. Ranjit, request you to log out and log in again to fix
Okay,
the
I'll
issue.
just log out and log in again. Can
Yes,
you just give me a
yes. Yeah, sure. Mr. Swan, as far as Guwahati address is concerned, in Guwahati and all your establishments there in
yes.
Shillong, what kind of an experience, the menu, and also the pricing, do you think that's going to play a critical role?
Yeah, we already have launched a special menu right
Yeah.
from the 8th of June for the online and takeaways. In fact, we've introduced what we call a combo meal,
Okay.
because what we felt was that with the continuous lockdowns, people will get, in the first few weeks, everyone's become a chef, and we've all, got into our kitchens and trying to, experiment, including me. I started making a few items. But as time goes along, that also kind of starts getting a little difficult. At the end of the day,
Yes.
you got to go to the markets, procure your raw materials, and cooking day and out, cooking once in a while is something, but cooking regularly becomes a bit of a chore. So
Right.
we did come up with a concept of combo meals, which is basically easy pre-packed meals where we had various items already put into one common platter. So it became very easy for people, for maybe even a family of four, to just order their respective combos and platters. And that was something that we started. It did well,
Right.
and also, this is inspired by the fact that in Shillong, at Center Point, we are catering to food for the different paramedics. So we already had this kind of a platter system going, and that kind of
Right.
gave us the spark that maybe why not look at the general retail as well. So both Shillong and Guwahati, that's something that we've done.
Right.
And of course, Guwahati address, we already have a menu which has been inspired by the eastern region. So our food is largely food that moves in from
Yes.
Bengal eastwards right up to the northeast. And of course, with other international, I mean, some continental and a few other items. But generally, it is a regional menu.
Right.
We've already come up with a health menu prior to the lockdown, and these things are already in place. But in Shillong, in Centrepoint, again, this was a recommendation that came from some of these, paramedics, doctors. They, I mean, they've all been stationed in different hotels for a good period of time. So at some stage, they also want to try different kind of food. So once that sort of a request came in, we've started ensuring that one meal a day is dedicated to local cuisine. So
Oh,
that's something that has started, and which we are definitely going to ensure reaches our regular menus as well. So there will
oh,
be an addition definitely that maybe next time you walk into La Gallery, besides
yeah,
the regular Chinese and Indian
yeah,
and a bit of
yeah.
continental, we will definitely be having some northeastern offerings as well. So
Lovely.
yeah, so these are the different adaptations that have happened of late.
Yes, absolutely. Looking forward to all the local cuisine there at Center Point. And also, of course, Guwahati address is the favorite amongst so many. Tanay, what do you think, like as far as all of these things are concerned, going forward, what will be the top five things you think the government as well as the promoters need to look at? And before going to that query, my query about the food safety standards, not about the larger restaurants, because they are already, most of them are already doing. But do you think they also need to take extra care, things that maybe they have not thought about, which you think it's time they should look into, and about the smaller ones? Because there are a lot of takeaways, there are a lot of street food caterers, because end of the day it's food, whether I'm getting it from one of the upmarket restaurants or from the vendor on the street, it's going into my system. So what are your concerns and what needs to be done?
Uh, I think in light of the current scenario, what we are doing is we are washing our hands
Yeah.
more often, and I think even before Corona, washing hands is something that we should be doing. Ideally, that's what
Yes.
most that's what we're taught. You should wash your hands before and after meal. So, the basic procedures don't change. Okay, uh, you have to wash your hands. Now, what is coming new is the fact that you use hand sanitizers, an alcohol-based one, which is more effective. They're saying that it's an alternative to washing your hands with soap. You wear a face mask, then you have a shield. So these are things that are additions that I don't that a lot of star or category A restaurants are following by default, because this is what inspires confidence in a customer, whether they want to order food or whether they want to come to the restaurants and eat. So at our restaurant specifically, besides the obvious, we have introduced a check which is from the start. So if you're a customer or if you're a employee or a vendor, your temperature is checked daily. Then for customers, we have something known as a health declaration form, which in
Yeah.
if we have certain parameters you fill in, and if there are certain anomalies that come up, red flags, they're raised immediately, and we don't allow the customer to enter if he is been around someone who's COVID positive or been in a containment area, etc., etc. There is, of course, sanitizers at every station. We have enforced social distancing norms, which says our capacity of the restaurant is 50%, so that has cut out our seating capacity by 50%. There's no alcohol. We can't serve alcohol. Then making ensuring that our utensils and our crockery cutlery, we don't use disposables like Aarhi uses, but we
Yeah.
do follow FSSAI standards and international standard, which says that you have to have wash all this at 90 degrees. Cleaning of tables every half an hour, cleaning of the kitchen surfaces and floor every half an hour. So we follow all those to the T.
Right.
Yes, they are definitely a little more expensive, because this
Right.
is, it's not that people don't do these things, but they don't do it at with such vigor and at
Right.
such repeated times during the day. This, I think, is going to be a norm till a vaccine is not found, because I think psychologically it will play on people's minds. And you see, in Mumbai, while the virus is largely contained, but life has to continue. It life cannot come to a stop. That's life. So a lot of
Yeah.
people who don't have a choice, they go to work, or they're using local transport. They're taking all the precautions, but life will continue.
Right.
uh,
Yes.
this is something, it is what it is. With regards to uh, you know what we are doing in terms of, I think delivery is the future.
Yes.
Like Larsing pointed out, This is basically a time for change, and not just right now, but for the next 1 year, I think, it's dining is going to be very different. So a lot of focus has to be on home delivery, whether it is combo meals, it is varied pricing, it is discounting. I mean, end of the day, now everyone is going to get on home delivery. So as a customer,
Yeah.
earlier if you had 50, now you'll have 100 choices. So I feel what stands apart and what will stand out of the crowd is, the fact that your brand is a recognized brand and people know that, they are synonymous with safety, not just now, but always, that, these people care about the food they serve you, whether it is how it is cooked, the facilities that it is cooked in, the staff, etc., 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 and of course the pricing, and
Right.
bringing in a lot of innovation in terms of regional food, mixing it up a bit, and that is what is going to set you and your brand apart. And those are
Right.
things that we are also doing at our restaurants to ensure that
Yes.
we are there on top of people's minds in terms of recall.
Okay. So for all you guys in the restaurant business out there, as Tanai has put it, pricing is going to be key. The safety standards. These are two of the things, and of course, the home delivery and innovative items on the menu, thinking innovatively and offering combos, unique pricing there. All these things are going to be the key to beat the downturn, right? Tanay, is that right? Did I get you right there? All right.
Absolutely.
So,
I mean, once
okay.
again, the customer is king here. So
Yes, yes, absolutely, yes. Ranjeev, I hope you are back. Would like to hear from you.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
What would you
So
like
tell
more?
us, yeah. So tell us about.
Anything that in particular that you're asking? Yeah.
Yes, of course, of course. I would love to hear from you about your plans as far as hot pot is concerned. What can the customers expect going forward? What are your plans? What is your menu going to look like? What about the pricing? What do you think? Is pricing going to really play a key role? Because I feel as a customer, I would really go by what you're offering. As a customer, I think what I would look for is uh, the menu, what you are giving me new this time around, because of course I am totally bored. I'm waiting for all you guys to open up so that I can go and dig in. I'm sure many more people must be thinking on similar lines. And of course, there will be a lot who would want to sit in the comfort of their home, in the safety of their home, and enjoy a nice meal. Uh, Pricing, of course, because we all are seeing a lot of tough time as far as our finances are concerned. I, no matter how much I would want to go out and eat, maybe I'm still not ready to shell out that much. So that's going to be a deciding factor. So, what's on offer from Hotpot, or is going to be on offer?
I'm sorry, I didn't get the last part of your question.
What's on offer
Last
from
bit?
Hotpot? What's going to be on offer from Hotpot
Okay.
once the operation starts?
Yes. So Hotpot is essentially an Pan Asian restaurant, but we also have a Indian and a local Northeast section.
Yeah,
So what now we're looking at, because of the circumstances, changed circumstances, even when it comes to availability of raw material, and also because we're looking at the whole local kind of spirit that has come in. So we are also going to be focusing more on local
yeah,
food, which is easier to raw materials are easier to access, and honestly, even the costs are lower for local food, because when you're buying ingredients that are imported, it also adds to the cost. And like you're saying, the customer is going to be very sensitive to pricing now, which is understandable. So I think going local is makes sense in many
yeah,
ways. So definitely we're going to be focused on more local northeastern food. And of course, as far as dining is concerned, there's going to be a huge focus on maintaining safety standards, hygiene. So that
yeah.
is goes without saying. And obviously, we're going to be changing the seating arrangements and provide ample of space between tables so that people are comfortable if they come in. And I'd like to add another thing talking about home deliveries. But when you come to when you're thinking of places like, I mean, close by, I'm very sure that during lockdowns, food is considered as an essential service. And even if there's a curfew, deliveries are allowed till about 10 p.m. in the night, which has not happened in Assam. And if you can, we'll all know that dinner is a big chunk of our day during summer. And if you're closing restaurants at 5 p.m.,
Yeah.
if I'm talking about deliveries, then we lose out on a lot of revenue. And I'm sure there are going to be people who depend on the outside food, who are working all day from home and who don't have the time or don't have the resources to cook at home, during such times. So I think if the authorities allow home deliveries till about 10 p.m. or 11 p.m. at night, that really help,
Okay.
keeping everything all standards maintained, of course.
Right. Right.
That is one
Yeah.
thing.
All right. So before we close, Mr. Swayan, want to know from you, you all have been talking, and we know that home delivery is something that is going to be really, really playing a key role this time. So how prepared are each of you to handle the pressure? Are you guys geared up?
I think we are absolutely geared up. I mean, we've been geared up since the unlocking down of June, and we've got everything in place. A lot of our staff are back, and we had already started running the restaurant, and in fact, there was a reasonably decent traction that had built up in June. And unfortunately, due to the spikes, things are back to a kind of a lockdown mode in Guwahati as well.
Yes.
So we're hoping that things will stabilize. Hopefully, over the next week or two, once things stabilize, maybe over a couple of weeks, and things come back to normal, then just waiting to start operations again and keep the burners going again. So
Right.
yeah, you're asking, we're absolutely prepared for that.
Great, great. And what would be your expectations from the government? Maybe top three things that you would want from the government to get the sector out of the distress.
It's very difficult. I mean, there are many models to look at as far as the government. If they really want to play, if they really want to, come up with any sort of a bailout package
Yeah.
for the hospitality industry. I mean, there are many countries that have come up with very interesting concepts, including the UK, which recently came up with a concept where customers were offered 50% discount, and that would actually be subsidized by the government. Of course, there are certain terms and conditions that are laid down,
Right.
perhaps uh, employment connected. But whatever it is, these are fantastic schemes and initiatives that have come up by different governments. Now, as far as we are concerned, of course, India is a massive country. We're talking about 1.4 billion population. I mean, the restaurants, you don't know where to begin and where to end. What do you classify? Where do you begin the classification of a restaurant and where do you end? So I can also understand the difficulty that the government has in terms of coming up with a package for this sector.
Yeah.
However, perhaps even at the state level, uh, you
Yes.
know, restaurants and institutions that are considered to be assets of tourism or assets of the state in terms of providing services and enhancing the overall image and infrastructure of a city or a state could perhaps be classified in a certain way, and certain special provisions may be given, and then of course certain other classification for the others, and certain packages thereafter according to what the government can offer. I think
Right.
we are going through difficult times. Undoubtedly, no one expected such a situation to arise, neither the government nor anyone in the private sector. We don't even know how long this is going to go on.
Yes.
As
Right.
long as the government, within its ability, both at the central and at the state level, can look at certain uh, uh, schemes that can at least keep these sectors, keep these units afloat, it will help. Because
Right.
these are fragile, especially restaurants. Restaurants are very fragile units, and they require definitely they need some sort of hand holding as time goes by, because it's not easy to keep things going when there's no revenue, or when
Yes.
revenues are cut to less than a half or even quarter. So yes, I hope that at some stage, even the state governments would come up with some innovative
Right.
schemes to help restaurants out.
Absolutely. Arhi, I'll come to you with the same set of query. What are your expectations from the government? What kind of a support would you expect from the government? But before coming to you, I would like to go to Ranjeev. Ranjeev, what are your thoughts? What are you expecting from the government? What should the government be doing for the sector?
Yes, I completely agree with what yeah, yeah, yeah. Speaking on the same lines as what Larsing said, more specifically, it would be helpful if the government, at least was very clear about providing loans to restaurants, working capital loans, so that, interest-free working capital loans that are repayable in small EMIs over a considerably long period of time, maybe about 3 to 5 years, so that there's not much pressure on the entrepreneurs to pay back the loan with
Yeah.
big amounts, so like that, and maybe also maybe some kind of relaxation on GST for the next 6 months or 1 year, things like that, and also uh, if they can have, you can introduce some policy where there is some kind of balance being struck between tenants and landlords as far as restaurants are concerned, maybe a fee or something like that, because these are
Yeah.
the basic problems. And if you see, by my rough estimate, there are about at least about 50,000 food outlets in Assam, both organized and from the unorganized sector. So if you're looking at least about average, on an average 10 employees, you're looking at about 5 lakh families that are dependent on this industry in Assam. So the thing is, to retain these people, the government has to something like Larsing said, in countries like the UK and the US, the government is going all out. They're spending their own money, not expecting it back from these businesses. So that they just to ensure that these people are retained on their payrolls, so that no unemployment problem, which can lead to bigger problems. So that is the kind of expectation we have, or should I say hope, that kind of help would really support this industry and entrepreneurs.
Right. Right. Arhi, what about your wish list?
Uh, One of the first things I think would be also considering the alcohol licenses, because now there's a security deposit for the alcohol licenses, and
Yeah.
since the bars and any beer on license or any places shut down, they should at least extend it for a year or two. The license should be at least, they should not have any additional fee for the next year. They should at least consider that. Probably that could be one.
Yeah.
Second, I think would be the raw materials or the goods that we are purchasing should have at least something sort of a ration card, probably for the restaurants, wherein they can get it from a particular place at a particular rate, and a rate which is fixed instead of fluctuation, because that would affect our pricing, that would affect everything else,
Right.
because our goods are the main thing that comes in for us.
Yes. Yes.
And
Yeah.
also maintaining the hygiene. What happens to the street food? What happens to the street
Right.
vendors?
Yes.
What happens to the vegetable vendors who are on the
Yeah.
streets? Because now the customers are conscious. They are conscious customers. They do not want to eat out anywhere and anywhere.
Right.
So, what would happen to those people who are on the streets, you know, earning a living?
Yes.
What would
Right. Okay.
So that has
Tanai,
to be considered as well.
yes. Tanay, what do you have to say as far as the role of government is concerned? And would also request you to sum up about the to-do things as far as people in this particular space is concerned, the restaurant sector.
Um, you know, I'm just going to take off on what everyone else on the panel
Yeah.
has. The same sentiments are there. but there has to be support from the government in some form or the other, whether it's easing our uh, utility bills, whether it is helping us with rental. And if you cannot help us with rental, then you need to let the landlords know that it's about give and take. That's how it's going to work. If we are not there, then the place won't run, and if the place won't run, then you won't have people coming in, you won't get rent paid. Then it's also about helping our staff. There have been various schemes, more so in the United Kingdom. I know in Germany, where the government has extended help to small businesses, and not just restaurants, but small businesses. With certain terms and conditions that is there. And I think the most notable was the Rishi Sunak, who's the finance minister, uh, announced that there's going to be a 50% waiver and a reduction in VAT. So these are things which are small, but these are help. These help businesses, and I think we need to start somewhere, uh, in whatever sense that the government can provide us. And I think it all comes back to the fact that probably the government doesn't think that the industry is the hospitality industry is serious enough to be taken and to provide assistance, because I think we are big enough. Like Ranjeev also pointed out that in Assam alone there are some 50,000 restaurants, whether it's organized or unorganized sector. So you can imagine that as a collective across the country. And I know that India is a huge country, and laws are very fluid, but there has to be a start somewhere, because I feel that this corona pandemic is a wake up call, uh, not just for hospitality, but in general for the way business is conducted, the way business is viewed by the government
Right.
across all industries. Hospitality is just one of them, uh, and you know we have suffered, and we are the ones who always suffer for whatever reason, whether it's backlash because of sentiments,
Right.
because of various reasons, things that are not being done by the government. So any help extended would be, uh, you know, I think anyone would be very grateful for that. Uh,
Right.
with regards to the top things that
Yeah.
restaurant needs to do, I think uh, end of the day, hospitality is a service industry. We are only as good as the people who we work with. So I think while paying salaries is a challenge for most people, I think what is important is you may not be able to give an employee the full salary, but you need to give them some amount just to sustain themselves. Because these are the people you want back when you open. Because this is just temporary state. We are going to open, businesses are going to get back to normal. But if you don't have the people who made your business what it was before the COVID, then it basically counts for nothing. um, you know we have to focus on our hygiene, our businesses, our hygiene standards, and we have to imbibe them, not just temporary, not just because of the COVID being there. We have to imbibe hygiene as a default mechanism, washing hands, ensuring that we don't touch our hair, or we're not unhygienic, having a bath. These are things that are normal practices which we need to ensure that are drilled into our staff. We need to reinforce the brands that we have, which people can relate to, because I think now the customer is very aware. They know exactly, they're very discerning, they know what they want.
Right.
Customers very aware, they're very synced, very clued in to what is happening, so they are very demanding about what they want. And that demand is, I think it can go across all price ranges. Whether you have a five-star hotel, whether you have a standalone restaurant, or you have a hawker who's selling golgappas or making kati rolls. So the customer is very aware of this. So we have to make sure that we reinforce our brand standards, because that is what is most important moving forward. Is that's how people are going to define you. Um,
Right.
that's what I think is important, and not.
Yeah.
And when I say, I don't mean restaurants. I mean hospitality in general. Whether you're
Right.
a standalone or whether you're a five-star, whether you're a
Yeah.
caterer, these are the things that will define you. That is what I think.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, lady and gentlemen, for this wonderful discussion today. I hope we have been able to, address some of the concerns there. It's a pleasure that you all could be here today with me for for this particular show. Looking forward, Tanay. I hope you are working at getting more fun brands into Northeast. And Mr. Sawyan, I would like to do a special session with you on football and sports in Northeast. What's happening there? What are your plans going forward? So, thank you, Tanay. I think you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, Oineetom, we are opening a Hard Rock Cafe in Guwahati very soon.
Yes, yes. I was
Um,
waiting to hear about that from you.
work is stopped because of the current. Uh, but I hope I'm personally very excited about Guwahati because I visited it in Jan. That was the first time I went there,
Yeah.
and I was you know I was very ignorant about the Northeast before, but that one trip completely changed my perspective and my thoughts. So I can't wait for that to open.
Lovely, lovely. We are also equally excited and looking forward. Ranjeev, looking forward for more fun food from Hot Pot. And Aarhi, thank you so much for all the lovely ethnic Assamese cuisine
Thank
that you guys have been offering to us over the years. Please keep up the good work. And of course, Larsing, Guwahati address and Center Point, everybody loves both these places. Thank you so much for all that each one of you have been doing and the entire sector, and wishing the best to each one of you and the entire restaurant and hospitality space. And thank you, viewers, for joining me today. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.